Wake up, America. I think I got something to say to you. I say this every week. I love the United States of America, and I want you to love the United States of America too. Office Hours with Dr. A is not a safe space, so enter at your own risk. You will be exposed to the truth, and I will endure the consequences. Again, rest assured, I will not try to put my brain into your head. I will, however, motivate you to think and to use the analytical part of your brain that very few people want to use because it requires actual effort, it requires actual work.
You've reached the office of Dr. Randy Arrington. Please have a seat, and the doctor will be with you in just a moment.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. A, and we're here with in my office hours on the line with me. I'm hoping is Lou Esposito. She's my producer, sidekick, and of course I gave her the honorary tactical call sign of a naval aviator, Wench, and you know that she doesn't take crap from anybody. Wench, are you there?
I'm here, and you always know I'm here because if I'm not here, we're not on the air.
Oh, okay. So you're the Wizard of Oz, Wizardress of Oz, behind that curtain, pushing the bells and buttons and whistles and levers we're not supposed to pay any attention to.
Right.
Like we do in the government.
Pay no attention to the producer.
Pay no attention to that woman behind the curtain. You know, lots going on. They just had I think it was the third installment of that mega liberal Communist Party's presidential debate. More lies spewing out of the mouth of all three of those people. It's just horrendous, and a lot of people have been getting in touch with me wanting to publish that article that we published on a few different sites about Hillary Clinton and her propensity for being a pathological liar, and a lot of people are waking up to that might get more play as we get closer and closer to either her getting indicted, like I have a bet with Miss Stacy, or her securing the Democratic nomination and running against the eventual candidate on the Republican side. It's going to be a fun next 10, 11 months. Do you agree with that?
Fun, I don't know so much. Interesting, definitely. Yeah.
I used the wrong adjective? Okay.
Well, I don't know. It depends on your perspective. I haven't found it much fun so far.
Well, it'll give you something to talk about, but you're right. I mean, the opening mantra says, I love the United States of America, and I want you to love her too, and that's exactly right. I want you to love the United States of America, and hopefully we can all come together and coalesce behind the eventual winning candidate, whoever that might be, and return America to our traditional Judeo-Christian values and our brilliant Constitution so that we can become a great nation again. You notice I didn't say return America to greatness because that's one of the candidates' statements. I don't want to use that for fear that somebody might think I am, behind that particular individual and endorsing him. Well, Dr. A has not endorsed anybody as of yet, but I may be getting close.
Yes, you love to tease it, no matter.
You know what we're going to talk about today? We might do this for a little while. We are going to get into cultural Marxism and all that stuff that's happening in the country. You know what? I want to digress for a second. Did you just see that there's some university, I think it's Oberlin, which is an overly liberal university. Mostly women, I think, go to that school. They were upset that the indigenous food, I think it was from India, maybe it was Mexico. I'm Mexican food, whatever. I love all this food. Was prepared incorrectly. Therefore, it was a microaggression against the students there because it wasn't properly prepared to come from that nation or that people. What is wrong with these students, Lou? What is wrong with them?
They've been, well, you would say mind raped, but they've been taught to be that way. They've been empowered to be that way. So anytime people think about it, our first show was sheep, dogs, and wolves, and people love to be sheep, and sheep are victims. Anytime you give someone an opportunity at victimhood, most of them take it.
We need to get somebody in the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that will return the great American work ethic, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, dude or dudess, and become a success on your own right. Don't count on the government or political activists or your cultural Marxist professors to do anything for you. Do it of your own accord, and then nobody can take it from you.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad situation because we are going down a road of proceed without fear or proceed at your own risk. And kids are not learning to be fearless. They're learning to be fearful.
Well, that's why when they come into my office hours or my classroom, they know it's not a safe space, that they will be exposed to the truth, and I will let them speak their piece. I'm not going to stifle them. I'm going to try to educate them to the truth. And that's what I do, and I'll endure the consequences. But here's the deal with America right now, besides what we're going through in the political realm and all that stuff that's happening in Washington, D.C. We talked about the Chicago Way. I think it was on the last show, and I published an article about that, how the Chicago Way is alive and well inside the Beltway, and those Beltway bandits are utilizing it to their maximum extent possible, bribery and blackmail to get certain public policies passed into existence that would never have a chance had they had to come through the actual democratic legislative process. And Obama's the master at this. We've got to get rid of this guy. I'm sorry if that offends you, but he is, committing treason every single day. I'm telling you the truth. And you know what, folks? We are at war, and today I'm going to tell you how to win the war against Islam. And you may not like that title, but that's what we're going to talk about. Are you ready to go with that, Lou?
I'm more than ready.
All right.
I've been primed in the past few weeks, as you know.
You've been what?
I have been primed for this conversation over the past few weeks, as you well know.
Well, you have this little show on Thursday nights at 8 o'clock on K98. It's called For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I want to give that show a plug because I'm fortunate enough and honored to be asked to appear on that show every now and again.
Frequently.
Last time I was on that show, you tried to handle me and accuse me of plugging Office Hours with Dr. A. Well, I may have done that, but I consider Office Hours with Dr. A to be our show. Well, so I was plugging our show.
Yes. Well,
yes,
yeah, we're on the air quite often together, and we have a lot of fun.
I get a lot of plugs. Well, I shouldn't call them plugs. I get a lot of notoriety from JD and Stacy on their show. There's two of them, Bloody Marys and Broads. Is that the right name of that show?
Broadsheets, yeah.
Oh, Broadsheets.
But JD would like that name, actually.
And the Game On Miss Stacy. Is that what it's called? Game On Miss Stacy?
That's right, and they're on WNJC as well on Fridays at 5 p.m.
I try to get in the romper room and listen to their show as often as I can with my hectic schedule, but
we're all part of
very intelligent than me.
Right, and we're all part of that Conservative Commandos radio network.
Conservative Commandos out of Philadelphia, WNJC 1360. We're honored to be on that station on Tuesdays at 5. I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely great. Yeah.
Who knows where we go from here,
Who knows? Yeah, it's a great team. Great team to be on.
Syndicated TV. All right, so let's talk about how to win the war against Islam. Now, centrally located inside of the Middle East, Islam has successfully established, I call it its latest deadly caliphate.
Which would be accurate. Yeah.
Huh?
That would be very accurate. Its latest caliphate.
Latest deadly caliphate. Of course, aided and abetted by the Islamo-communist, have a drink, who temporarily resides at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. Temporarily because about 13 months from now, he's going to be gone.
Right. And people need to understand that, right, and I know you're going to get into this, but people need to understand from the get-go that Islamo-communism is an ideology.
Both of them. Islamists, the so-called religion of Islam, which I teach you all the time, it's not. It's just a totalitarian political ideology, brutal, of total control over human behavior and thought that masquerades as a religion, as well as communism. Marxist communism is the same thing. It's a brutal totalitarian regime, and they viewed it as a religion. The people that were subject to it, those peasants in Russia and wherever communism was taking hold, are just peasants. And the god is whoever they install as the central leader of the Communist Party.
That's right.
And that's the way they view that, you know. So since its inception in the aftermath of Gaddafi's, Uncle Muammar's vicious ouster from power in Libya, the Muslim Brotherhood's so-called Arab Spring in the country of Egypt, that ongoing civil war inside of Syria against the Assad regime, who they're trying to overthrow, and the brutal assault on America's consulate in Benghazi, ISIS and the Islamic Caliphate have begun to metastasize like a quick-moving cancer, spreading their satanic evil all over this globe. Ultimately, people, you need to understand this, ultimately, their eyes are fixed upon the most difficult to achieve goal, the grand prize of conquering the United States of America and the American people in specific, and then dominating the entire world, the Western world in general. The West, or the Western world, basically refers to civilized society and those nations that adopt and advocate specific anthropologic values and principles, values such as the principle of political liberty, including freedom of expression and freedom of thought. People out there listening, I give my producer, Lou Esposito, the complete freedom of expression and complete freedom of thought. That's why she will handle me from time to time.
To get a word in.
Today she's,
just to get a word
today
in.
She's gonna get a rude awakening because I don't think I can finish this show in 1 hour, maybe 2 hours, but I'll do my best. But Lou has, complete freedom of expression and freedom of thought to challenge me at any time, and she often does. And I do that on purpose. Sometimes I'll say things that I want my students or my listeners or the producer and other radio hosts to challenge me on. And I want them to go out and find on their own whether I'm telling them the truth or not. And I will routinely sometimes not say the exact truth just to call you out of a shell, which I know you're not in one, but some people are, to come out and challenge me and engage in intellectual banter. That's what it's all about, Lou. Mm-hmm. Now, the use, other principles, these anthropologic principles and values that the Western world adopts and uses, advocates, is the use of a logical, rational thought process as the primary vehicle through which our knowledge is gained and through which our knowledge is both expanded and perpetuated. And third, the assumption that individual human beings on this earth possess a God-given moral right to life, liberty, private property, and the pursuit of happiness. A lot of people forget that private property is extremely important in a society that espouses liberty. You've got to have the right to own private property and then be responsible enough to own it. And that's something a lot of people forget. All of these, how should I put this, bedrock doctrines are vital to civilization and vital to the preservation of an enlightened mankind, enlightened humanity. These aforementioned values represent the reason, folks, that Islamic jihadists attack the West and America so vehemently. Of course, it is augmented by listen to what I'm telling you, it's augmented by strict commandments contained in the Quran and the Hadith that dictate total annihilation of repentant infidels. What do you think of that statement, Lou?
Yes.
Your mic.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I would totally agree with that. From what we've seen and what we know over hundreds of years, and ask Charles Martel.
Exactly. And these people, in fact, I may talk about him the next time we get together, but these mega liberals and the progressive Republicans on the right in this country either don't understand this or don't care because they're being blackmailed or they're bribed to allow these people into our country with impunity. And you know what? You may not like what I'm going to tell you, folks, but your president, Barack Hussein Obama, has put Muslim Brotherhood, Islamists into every bureaucratic entity in this country. They now control the narrative on how we can discuss and how we view Islam. Does that shock you, Lou?
No, no, not at this point in history. It doesn't shock me.
Am I a Joe McCarthy by speaking this truth? Because we're going to get into Joe McCarthy and what he
Right?
taught us.
Yes. You would be labeled one, I'm sure, and I think that they've already drawn the comparison between McCarthy and those who call.
Give it to me. Give it to me.
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
can
not.
take.
No, I'm not gonna, because you know, I mean, you have to really study it, and you have to know the difference. And we talked about the other night, which one of our listeners called, the best explanation of our enemies that we've ever heard. Part of it was they all hate each other, sure, until they don't, and then they join together against their primary enemy, which is the West. End of story.
Dr. A taught you that. You don't like me going third person, but I'm going to do it. Dr. A taught you that last time we're together. This is what I was taught at UCLA, okay, by Professor Brody. I remember it like it was yesterday. In the Middle East, these Muslim countries, their mantra is me against my brother, but me and my brother against everybody else. That's their marching orders, Lou. And
Right.
by the way, folks out there listening, this is going to be a two-part series. I'm sorry, but it's going to take us two parts, two separate shows for me to teach you what we have to do to win the war against Islam. I'm sorry, Lou.
Sorry, folks. I just can't get him through one show in an
All
hour.
right.
Just keep going.
Listen to this. Freedom, liberty is abhorrent to Muslim barbarians. And it is totally inconsistent with the type of totalitarian rule in the form of Sharia law that they wish to forcibly establish over all mankind. Now, of course, any grand strategy for winning the war against Islam must take into account that each Western nation has its own historical context that they must manage. Each Western nation has different lawful prerequisites for waging combat operations and for sending its warriors and its beloved national treasures into harm's way. And each Western nation has its own unique governmental apparatus for public policy decision-making. Now, that being said, I get asked this all the time. Dr. Ray, how do we defeat this latest Islamic caliphate, at least temporarily, and win an unconditional surrender to end the ruthless, barbaric assaults that are currently terrorizing the world? Well, here are, I think I got 11 or 12. Here are the several tactics that must be implemented immediately to win the war against Islam. Here's the first one. Recognizing that Barack Hussein Obama is indeed a traitor, people, that represents the first unpleasant step we Americans must take toward the path of ultimate victory. President Obama must be impeached for treason and removed from office immediately.
I think you need to spell out why.
He and members of his administration have been clandestinely collaborating with our mortal enemy, financing them, equipping them with our weapons, and assisting them in their war-fighting efforts. I told you just a few minutes ago, Obama has installed numerous Muslim Brotherhood agents into every federal bureaucracy in America. These Muslim agents now control how Islam is depicted and how Islam is perceived and how we can discuss and talk about Islam in the American public. They control the narrative and the taqiyya talking points to remove all negativity from Islam, the religion of peace. Say it ain't so, Dr. A, but I got to tell you, folks, it is so. Mr. Obama your chief executive, is one of them. He told you that in his speech in Cairo. If you listened, he told the Egyptian Muslims, I am one of you. As such, he is an enemy of the American people. He must be removed from power. I think he should be removed from power before January 20th, 2016. It's your mic, Lou.
Oh, wow. I would love to see that, but I don't think the process allows for time, and it's definitely not going to happen under this Congress. So we'd be waiting till he was gone anyway. I would love to see it, but it's not going to happen.
I'm going to analyze that for me. Why not with this Congress? Why won't it happen, Lou?
I will refer people back to every previous radio show that we've ever done. And the you call it the Washington Cartel, so does or Beltway Bandits. Washington Cartel is one of Ted Cruz's favorites, but it is the fact that they're basically all just in business together.
Yeah, and the last show, the Chicago Way, go back and listen to that in the podcast replay or read the article or whatever. It lays it out. And I know I'm provocative, but sometimes the truth can be rude. And I'm telling you the truth, people. I'm sorry if you don't like hearing this, but I'm telling you the absolute truth. I will endure your consequences, the Twitter trolls that come after me or whatever. But it's the truth. So that's the first step we have to take to win the war against Islam. Do you need to take a break, Lou, or can we continue? What do you want to do?
Yeah,
it's going to be a 2-hour show.
Take a quick break, and we will be back in just a minute.
K98 Talk is continuing to expand its lineup. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org.
Office Hours on WNJC is brought to you by the Conservative Commando Radio Network.
Yeah, welcome back.
Oh, all right. Number 2, America, the American people must take the lead in this war against Islam. The American people, our wealth and our resources, and our nation's pragmatic, assertive leadership have always been needed in any warfighting coalition of allies that band together to bring an end to worldwide aggression. This will require a commander-in-chief who possesses the requisite amount of many things. Listen to what our commander-in-chief has to have. He has to have the requisite amount of courage, skill, cunning, knowledge, intellect, dogged determination, humility. I always want to keep our leaders with one foot firmly planted in humility. Godliness, fear of God, that's a good one. I just added that one. And a deep love of America to take the lead and actually allow our military to defeat this heinous enemy in conjunction with a warfighting coalition of our trusted allies. That's the second step that must take place. Number 3 in our Dr. A's prescription for winning the war against Islam, tell the American people that we are indeed at war against Islam. Make them fully understand this truth. Islamic jihadists, Lou, have callously attacked several Western nations. We've talked about it. Cruelly murdering our fellow countrymen and the citizens of our traditional allies. It really doesn't matter if Western politicians skirt around the issue using fancy language, an appeasing demeanor, and their politically correct speech. I reiterate, we are at war with Islam and those Islamic states that provide support, aid, comfort to these jihadists, whether these so-called Western leaders, both amongst our allies in the United States, acknowledge it or not. Whether or not the political class declares war, We are at war, Lou, with Islam because Islam is actively engaged in fighting a bloody war with us. We must be honest with the American people and make them understand and accept this fact. The unambiguous alternatives for America and the Western world are, here, I'm going to lay them out for you. Total victory and defeat of Islam with unconditional surrender given to us by the Islamic jihadists. Or, here's the other alternative, the other side of that coin, violent death and destruction of America and her allies and their people, and complete submission to the slavery and the domination of Islam. Here's Dr. A's advice, people. We win, they lose.
Absolutely.
And of course, I take that from Ronald Reagan. We win, they lose. There's no other alternative, folks.
Yes, and you and I have both shared a meme on Twitter. It's one of my favorite memes ever of a fighter in a jet with the sign that said, "Can I please just shoot the
bastards now?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can say that on TV. I'm going to have to bleep. I mean, that's not going to fly on NJC. I'm going to have to bleep that.
Well, he had to cover his face up so he wouldn't be identified. He probably wore a generic helmet too, so it wouldn't be identified. Because a fighter pilot's, a naval aviator's helmet is very distinctive. And you got your call sign on the side or whatever, your squadron.
I'm waiting
logo,
for mine,
whatever.
by the way. I still haven't received mine.
Oh, you need it. Well, you know what? We got to get you one. They're very expensive nowadays. They're about $1,200.
Oh, never mind.
You get them from a place out in San Diego.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so that's Dr. A's advice. That's Lou's advice as well. We win, they lose. So those are your first three things that we have to adopt if we're going to beat Islam. Here's the fourth one. Identify the enemy. It is Islam. Glenn Beck just wrote a book. I read it about a month ago. It is called It is Islam. And it is. I'm sorry to offend you. I know I'm offending a lot of people out there. But the enemy is Islam. America and the West cannot fully prepare strategic and tactical war plans, successfully target, and then ultimately defeat the enemy that is so brutally attacking us at the present without identifying to the American people who and what our enemy actually is. To date, Mr. Obama and his administration have gone to great lengths, if you will, to be politically correct and to use secret, diversionary, guilt trip tactics to deceive the American people into believing that we are not at war and that we certainly have no beef with the peace-loving Islamic religion. That's a crock, Lou. These diversionary tactics that the left is using and CARE and the rest of these people are using emanate straight from cultural Marxism, Lou, and from Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. I want to read you I think there's 7 of the 13 Rules for Radicals that pertain directly to this. Okay, here's Rules for Radicals number 4. Make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. If the rule that every letter gets a reply, send 30,000 letters. You can kill them with this because no one can possibly obey all of their own rules. Yes, this is a country based on limited government and freedom, limited government involvement. They use that against us. And yet sometimes they use more government against us to enforce the various rules they want to enforce. This president and his administration have put more rules, executive orders, administrative doctrines into our system than any other president before him. And that's exactly what Alinsky says. Nobody can live up to all of their rules. We're allowing our country and our way of life to be painted into a corner, people. We can't allow that. Number 5, ridicule is the most potent weapon. There's no defense. It's irrational. It's infuriating. It also works as a key pressure point to keep force on the enemy and to make them come into concessions. That's exactly what they're doing right now, keeping the pressure on. Those people in Ferguson, Missouri, the Black Lives Matter, that's exactly, they're following Alinsky's rules for communist radicals to a T.
Okay, so that reminds me of something hilarious that happened on Twitter. I like to use
cool.
I like to use Alinsky hashtags when people are using his tactics and just call them out for it. And one of them answered me with, "Oh, I'm sure you have no idea who Alinsky was." And I tweeted them
I'm
back.
Sure you do have an idea.
Well, I tweeted them back with that rule. The most effective weapon is ridicule. And
ridicule.
I never heard another word back from them.
I think some of the ridicule, and I'm facing this all the time, thanks to you and Lou, and I mean you and JD and Miss Stacy. I get it all the time now. I'm used to it. I'm strong, and I'm going to withstand it. But there's some people that we know that are wonderful conservatives that have just dropped out of the Twitter, tweet society because they got so fed up and so hurt, their feelings, whatever, emotional. They got tired of dealing with it. You know, some of the people I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, some really pretty nasty things happened to them, and it became about protecting their families and not just their feelings.
If they can shut you up, they've won. A lot of that stuff is happening now on your show on Thursdays. A couple of weeks we talked about the Anons and all those Ghost Sec groups and Ghost Sec who are going on trying to fight these guys in the virtual realm and shutting down some of their websites and trying to stop their recruitment. And yet some of these probably have been also infiltrated by mega leftists, communists, Islamists, whatever, to try to blend in and then make us fight amongst ourselves. A lot of that stuff happened in Red Nation Rising. I told you that first time you and I interviewed. And that's what they do. They get in there and try to make us fight against each other. We got to resist that, people.
Right.
Alinsky's rule number 8, keep the pressure on. Never let up. Keep trying new things to keep the opposition off balance. As the opposition masters one approach, hit them from the flank with something new that they didn't expect. I bet that person that hit you with, you already know who Alinsky is, expected you to not know who Alinsky was.
Actually, what I thought of was the Department of Justice threatening to prosecute hate speech against
come
Islam.
And get me, folks. I'll tell you where I live. Come and get me, Miss Lynch. Come and get me.
Yes, well, they might have to go through the Naval Academy to make that happen, so good luck.
I relish that thought. Does she ever read the Second Amendment? Has she read the Constitution? Does she understand it? Or is she too busy using Ivy League lawyer interpretation of those words?
Absolutely. I think it's more about parsing it and applying the tactics that you're talking about right now.
You know what, folks? The Constitution is very simple. I've read every word of it and all the amendments. It is very simple. If it becomes complex, it's because we, the people, have allowed it to become complex. We have allowed those elected politicians, those office holders, those people in the organizational structure, the leadership of the parties, and then those consultants, and unfortunately I'm involved in this group too, those people that are in the professorial ranks, to make us believe that is very complex and only their level of intellect and acumen and perception and interpretation can actually understand politics and the Constitution and the amendments. Nothing can be further from the truth. It's Lockean and based on Montesquieu. It is simple. And we have allowed them to pervert it, Lou. That's what's going on. Number 9. From Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. Imagination and ego, which is used against us, can dream up many more consequences than any activist can come up with. So the threat, a threat of a veto, has gotten these Republicans, in name only, to fall in line with the Chicago way and Mr. Obama and what he wants to do. Hopefully they won't have to fall in line with Mrs. Clinton, and we can get rid of some of these knuckleheads like, I guess, what's that guy that's from South Carolina? He just dropped out of the presidential race, Lindsey Graham. Get rid of him, get rid of McCain, get rid of Paul Ryan, some of these people. They got to go, Lou. We have to have, people always ask Ronald Reagan, do we need a third party? He said, absolutely not. We need a reinvigorated, revitalized Republican Party. That's what we need today. Three parties cannot work in this country ever because of our rules for election. The electoral rules will not allow it to happen. Two parties always. So we need, in Reagan's words, a revitalized, reinvigorated Republican Party. Do you agree with that, Lou?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We need to revitalize conservatism. And the problem that we have is that we're all so competitive that we have trouble coming together.
Yeah, that's okay.
Capitalists are competitive people. Yeah, absolutely.
Coalesce.
Yeah,
a Republican
absolutely.
coalition. We may end up renaming the party. I don't know, but we're going to have the same people in it. We just have to re-educate those people and make them fully understand conservatism is what will save this country. Not progressivism, not more government, not cultural Marxism, not Islamo-communism. Progressivism will lose. Whatever term you want to use, conservatism will bring this country back and save us. It really will, people. Trust Dr. Ray on this one subject. Alinsky, number 10. The major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition, sort of building on the last one there. It is this unceasing pressure that results in the reactions from the opposition that are essential for any communist, cultural Marxist to wage a successful campaign, alternative campaign. 11, if you push a negative hard enough, it will push through and become a positive. Violence from the other side can win the public to your side of the argument because the American public in specific always seems to sympathize with the underdog. Always. I don't know why that is. When I was at UCLA almost never lost a basketball game because of Coach John Wooden. My leadership style, when I'm entrusted and honored with leadership positions, is John Wooden. I have John Wooden's Pyramid of Success at my desk, and we almost never lost. So we were the villain to everybody else in college basketball because we never lost. That may not be the case today. Some of those little schools in where do you live? North Carolina. They've come on big time and are challenging UCLA's domination of college basketball.
At least you didn't call it South Carolina.
I didn't know you lived in South Carolina. I'm sorry.
I don't. Stop.
Well,
Stop.
You're confusing me. I'm very easily confused. Don't do that.
Right, exactly.
All right. So he says if you push a negative hard enough, it will push through and become a positive. You know how I say that? If you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth in some weak-minded loser parasites' minds. It becomes the truth. We have to educate them on what the real truth is, Lou, and not let them get mind raped into believing that lies are the truth that will kill them and kill the United States of America. 13, in Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. Cut off the support network for that individual target and isolate the target from sympathy. Go after people. Don't go after institutions. Why? Because people are emotional. People hurt and remain hurt faster and longer than institutions. That's what's happening right now, people. They're using Alinsky tactics from us. You know who are great proponents of Saul Alinsky? Mr. Barack Hussein Obama and Mrs. Hillary Clinton. I always call her Mrs. Clinton. I'm trying to be, I guess it's a double entendre. I'm trying to be respectful and yet disrespectful to her. She hates being called Mrs. Clinton. She can't stand her husband. She's using him for power. She likes to be called Hillary Rodham Clinton. I don't do that ever. I call her Mrs. Clinton. Am I being respectful or am I being offensive, Lou?
Well, I don't think it matters, but it reminds me of the national security thing that a lot of people do, and Reagan administration was good at it. Bush administration was great at it. For instance, they would call Saddam Hussein Saddam. Saddam.
Saddam, as Bush's daddy says.
And Saddam, yep. And anything that wasn't his name and wasn't the correct pronunciation would do, and everyone in the administration would do it. And if you know anything about national security, it was on purpose.
And that show you do Thursday night that I'm honored to be on every now and then is a national security show. Yeah. There's not too many of those out there, and I really like that premise.
Yeah,
like this show is more professorial. Your show is more national security.
Yeah.
That's your bailiwick. So
Everybody's got their thing, right? But I've been saying that for years and pointing that out to people for years, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, they did. Oh, is that why they mispronounced his name? Oh yeah, it was intentional. Don't think for a second it wasn't."
Right. What you said this? I'm going to quote you. What thing does JD and Miss Stacy have on their two shows? All I hear from them is basically they tease me a lot.
They're funny.
And
they're hilarious.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
You know what? People listen to me. They're very funny.
They're smart and
they're
funny.
Highly intellectual. Mm-hmm. To be funny, you must be intelligent. Mm-hmm. And they have both. They're much more intelligent than people give them credit for. I can see that. I know this. It's
yes,
true.
You have to listen closely to hear how smart they are, but it's obvious how funny.
All right, let me go back. To date, Mr. Obama and his administration, they've gone to great lengths to be politically correct and to use various secret diversionary guilt trip tactics on us people into deceiving us, into believing that we're not at war with Islam, we have no beef whatsoever with the peace-loving Islamic religion. If you trust Dr. Ray on nothing else but this subject, trust me on this subject. Nothing can be further from the truth, Americans. We are, and the West, are at war with Islam. Obama's entire approach as president and commander-in-chief has been to apologize to Muslims, as he calls them Muslims, around the globe, and to shield Muslims living in America from any type of government scrutiny or law enforcement scrutiny. That's what he does. Publicly, Obama continuously, and I think laughably, blames traditional America, those people that cling to their Bibles and in the Bible Belt, and their Constitution, and their .45 caliber weapons and whatever they bought from Slickery Trigger. He blames us.
He doesn't sell weapons, by the way, holsters.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want that.
I need to get a holster from him. I'm running out of holsters.
But we don't want the ATF to think he's selling guns. He's not. He does not.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Yeah. All right. He's got a wonderful wife, Tina. She engages me every now and then in the romper room.
She's a sweetheart.
And unlike everybody else, she's very, very honored when she speaks to me and very respectful. I kind of like that.
Yeah, she's an honorable woman.
Not that I deserve that. I need to keep one foot in humility, and you make sure that happens when you handle me.
Right.
Okay, so publicly Obama's blaming you people. He's blaming George W. Bush. Still, 7 years later, blaming George W., blaming Republicans, the grand old party. You know who else he blames? Climate change. What the heck is that? First of all, climate change isn't real, folks. Climate change was invented by God. Okay? Spring, summer, winter, fall. That's climate change. There's no such thing as man-made induced climate change. It does not exist. It comes from the cultural Marxists. It's another way to control people, control their money, and to make people wealthy. It is a crock of crap. Don't believe it. He blames climate change. And again, those clingers, true conservative, red-blooded American patriots, for causing the radical jihadists, causing them to engage in their heinous, murderous activities. We didn't cause this. Obama didn't cause this. Muhammad caused this. And the fake, phony religion of Islam caused this because they read and do exactly what it says. Clandestinely, behind closed doors, inside the Beltway. Again, to reiterate, Mr. Obama is secretly financing, equipping, aiding, and abetting our mortal enemy. Mr. Obama is an American traitor, people. Please refer to my first suggestion for winning this war against Islam. We must name the enemy for the American people and our Western allies. We must be accurate in this complete, full description and identification. We must ensure that all American politicians are on board with this enemy identification and that they discuss it with their constituents in a rational, in a sober and honest fashion at their open forum town hall meetings in their district or in their state. We must also ensure that All of our allied governments and their politicians are fully on board with this enemy identification. And then they discuss it with their constituents in a rational, sober, honest fashion at their open forum town hall meetings in their districts or state in the Western nations. Our enemy in this war is Islam in general, but more specifically, it is the numerous Islamic regimes that are subsidizing and are supporting jihadist attacks against Western targets, and every jihadist group that have planned or executed their assaults on civilized humanity. The enemy foreign regimes, people, include the nations of Saudi Arabia. The Bushes won't like me for saying that. Neither will Mrs. Clinton. Iran. Sorry, Mrs. Jarrett, but it's true. Libya, Iraq, Turkey, Nigeria, and Syria, just to name the most obvious ones. The enemy jihadi groups include ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, and CAIR. Some so-called, as I would say, so-called scholars argue that Islam is a philosophic and cultural enemy of the West, that we are not at war with Islam because Islam is a religion, they would argue. But Muslims are taught daily in the Quran and the Hadith that Islam is opposed to every single principle of Western society and Western civilization. And the Quran and the Hadith calls them to murder those infidels who refuse to submit to their phony deity, Allah. As such, argue some so-called scholars, Islam is a body of ideas. So what would we bomb if our enemy is merely a body of ideas? These so-called scholars continue with an analogy. The relationship between Islam and our current military enemy is essentially the same kind as the relationship between Nazism and Nazi Germany. Shinto and the imperialist Japanese regime during World War II. Of course, Nazism is a body of ideas. Nazi Germany was a nation state ruled by a regime that was motivated by its leaders' complete support and acceptance of these ideas, people. Shinto is a religion. Imperialist Japan was a nation state ruled by a regime that was motivated by its leaders' full support and acceptance of the Shinto religion. Likewise, Islam is a religion that various nation states, they argue, and regimes and groups are motivated by their leaders' full support and acceptance of that alleged religion. Before we go to a break, listen to Dr. A, people. Listen and learn from me, please. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a totalitarian ideology of brutal, heinous, complete control over all human behavior and human thought, merely masquerading as a religion. I believe Islam emanates directly from Satan. As such, they are Satan's emissaries, and Muhammad is the Antichrist. We are at war with Islam and its motivating commandments of continuous bloody warfare against all infidels. Peaceful Muslims are irrelevant, people, in this war. Let me say that again. Peaceful, so-called peaceful Muslims are irrelevant in this war, just as peaceful German citizens and peaceful Japanese citizens were irrelevant during World War II. What do you think of that provocation, Lou?
Yeah, I think they make them absolutely irrelevant in a lot of ways, and attacking and killing them is one way that they do that, just like the philosophy of me against my brother until it's me and my brother against you.
Right. You heard what I said. I can win this war in 4 weeks. We go patting on their rear ends. Did you like the way I dumbed that down? We go patting on their rear ends. As Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters said, here's how you win. You kill every one of them, and then you kill their goat. You know what, people, I may get into this later, but no war, I hate to tell you this, but no war ever has been won and terminated without killing the enemy's civilian population, members of their civilian population. That is what forces the people that are waging war against us, the politicians, the military commanders, and then the warfare fighting machine, killing their civilians. That ends war and makes them stop. That's what ended World War II and the war in Japan, when Truman had the courage, the intestinal fortitude, I want to use JD's B word, but I won't, to make the decision to drop the atomic bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, killing hundreds of thousands of civilians, Japanese civilians. They gave up. Unconditional surrender. I'm sorry, but that's what it takes. That's what it's going to take here. They're killing our civilians, people. Do you know that? What do you think, Lou?
They definitely are. And it's ridiculous, and it's been a development over time, and it definitely started with the influence of cultural Marxism. You can look at history. People who don't know history, this is why they are so confused about the way things happen. But yes, our global strategy against our enemies has gone from no collateral, or do what you need to do to win a war, to no collateral damage at any cost, which means that you can kill as many of our citizens and as many of our people as you want to, but we're not going to kill yours because we are too PC.
When I went to the strike warfare, Naval Strike Warfare Center up in Fallon, Nevada, became a strike leader. We planned various strikes, attacks, missions, and the big time mantra was we have to minimize civilian casualties. Nowadays, with Barack Obama, the rules of engagement, which are hamstringing our guys with hands behind their back, both under the sea, on the sea, in the air, and on the ground, is basically hamstringing it. They can't do anything really until they're dead. Basically, then they're shot at and hurt. We got to change those rules of engagement and go patting on their rear ends. That's for sure. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, we're getting close, but you rest your voice for just a second, and we'll be back and wrap this up.
Before you smoke, think about this.
When you smoke, it affects more than just your health. I love to dance. That's something that I handed down to my family. I was pretty good at it too, before my doctor told me that secondhand smoke at work caused me to have asthma attacks, infections, and lung damage. And I never smoked. I can't work there anymore.
Think about the ones around you. This has been a public service announcement from K98 Talk.
All right, we're back, Dr. A. You want to wrap up the show?
I do, and I want to tell you that we're going to, next week we'll finish up this How to Win the War on Islam. One thing I want to tell you is people keep talking about tolerance. Trust me on this. Tolerance is the last virtue of a dying and depraved society. Too much tolerance, people, is not a good thing. So we got to get away from that too much tolerance thing. The security and longevity of our homeland, as I've been teaching you from the very beginning, can be equally threatened by both domestic as well as foreign sources. I think that there's no foreign entity on earth. I don't care what band of allies line up against us that can beat us. Only thing that can bring us down is the domestic insurrection with heinous treason, which is going on right now. You know what? Good men and women are routinely called upon to defend and protect their nation, this nation, against both types of threat. And again, what Edmund taught us is that the only thing that is necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. And I don't want you to be that way. I want you to join me. I'm ready to stand up and fight right now to preserve American freedom and the dignity of being an American. I want to know who among you will stand up with me. Truth is a microaggression to anybody that wants to spout lies, because it exposes their deception, exposes their hypocrisies to the light of day. And again, being in my close proximity is not a safe space. You will be exposed to the truth. It's funny, Barack Obama was on camera the other day saying he thought, and Mrs. Clinton lied again, saying that there's a video out there of Mr. Trump, the Trumpster, Lou, your favorite, Lou, and Stacey's favorite, that Trump's words are being used on a video to recruit ISIS fighters. It's hogwash. Hogwash. He lied again. I personally, and I've mentioned this before, can think of no more potent recruitment tool for ISIS and all of radical Islam and jihad than having Barack Hussein Obama sitting in the White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He is, or giving his little, America-bashing teleprompter apologetic speeches. That's what is empowering these people. You know what, people? We've been given a great gift, this generation, by God. And it is the opportunity to defend our freedom, to defend our liberty, to defend the American people and our way of life in its hour of greatest peril. In the not too distant future. And I wrote this for my class back in 2007 at UCLA, but it's so appropriate now. In the not too distant future, and it's getting closer for us every day, we are going to be forced by the magnitude of circumstances to develop a ruthless resolve as a country. And when that fateful day finally arrives, and it's getting closer in my humble opinion, we will, as Americans, we will begin to treat people who want to murder us and to murder us as our citizens, our people, and destroy our nation and our way of life in the callous and the cold-blooded fashion that they deserve. Our nation's ultimate survival depends on developing this brutal style of behavior, at least until the threat subsides and we win the war. We force them to give us unconditional surrender. Then we can return as a nation to the normalcy, if you want to call it that, of our sleeping giant syndrome. I wrote that back in December 2007. It's very appropriate today. That's not who we are as Americans. I'm getting tired of hearing this, people, coming straight from Barack's mouth and Mrs. Clinton's mouth. That's not who we are as Americans. Well, it had better become who we are as Americans very quickly, or you and America will cease to exist. Speak the truth, endure the consequences, let freedom ring. God help us. I love the United States of America, folks.
And that's our show. So I also love the United States of America. We will see you right back here on WNJC Philadelphia, 5 p.m. next Tuesday. And you can find us on K98talk.org. Have a great week.